Today we're going over the simplest sales process in the world. It is a process that probably I would say reignited my career and was a big part of my success. Hey Luke, good to see you, buddy. Um, so find that thumbs up icon. I'm going to get you to engage with me, and it's sometimes we'll be looking for some banter, but other times I'll be looking you to confirm that what I'm communicating is landing. So please find that icon and announce yourself with a fun icon if you want to. What you are going to need, and I'm not joking here, you need paper and a pen. So if you don't have paper and a pen with you, go and get it now. I'm going to get you to draw and write stuff as part of the process of helping you retain the information. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Joseph. Um, I need you to retain the information. So I'm going to get you to draw and write. If you do not have a pen and paper and that's not going to work, open up a Word document and I'll get you to kind of type what I come through with in a linear fashion. And at least then you've got it kind of step by step. Hi, Ruth. Um, so pen and paper is ideal. I want you to draw. I want you to write. It will help you remember this. You should walk away from today knowing in your head how to do a sales process. You may need coffee if you want to keep up with me, and I need you to find that thumbs up icon so that you can engage with me. The chat box is in the bottom toolbar. There's also a Q&A box. So if you've got questions, if I go too fast or if I say something just doesn't make sense, chuck it in the Q&A box. And if we don't answer that at the end, what we'll do is I'll write up an email and respond to those questions and I'll send that through to everybody afterwards. So I'm more than happy to catch up with anyone who wants me to go over it if you need a chat on the phone. This is a framework that I've used for a really long time. So I'm happy to help you any way possible. So we're at 90 and we had 150 people register. So I just want to give it another minute before I speed up too much. So I'll just talk about me very quickly. I don't like talking about myself too much, but I guess some of you are probably probably going, "Who the hell is this guy to teach me about sales?" So when I was 17, I wasn't earning good money. I'd left home, I'd left school, I was making it myself as a young boy, totally immature, probably shouldn't have done that. And I turned to this thing that doesn't exist anymore. It's called a newspaper. And in that newspaper, I started looking for a new job that was going to make me a whole bunch of money. And I got tricked. I saw this ad that in bold print said, make $500 a week, exclamation mark, phone number. And I was 17 years old, living pretty modestly. And I thought to myself, $500 a week is more money than I can even comprehend. I'm going to apply for this job. So I applied for that job. And the job was selling door to door on straight commission, no salary, no base. Eat what you kill. I became the fastest selling new recruit in Australasia, and then I was the fastest and youngest to be promoted to what they called area manager. Now, that all sounds really impressive, but the truth is, I went hungry many, many weeks. In fact, there were some weeks where I specifically remembered eating 2-minute noodles for one meal a day because that's all I could afford. So when I talk to people about sales, what I want you to understand is I understand it at the deepest emotional level that you can, from a failure point of view and from a success point of view. Okay, so I'm not telling you to do anything that I have not done myself. I have done complex boardroom negotiations. I've sold technology. I've sold advertising. I've sold businesses. I have sold everything that you can imagine. I've probably had a crack at some point in my career, and I've always been successful. But the process that I'm going to teach you today was that tipping point in my career. When I learned this process is what turned me into an excellent salesperson that always smashes targets versus a person who did okay at sales. So this is the easiest process that I can teach anyone. So we're just at about 100 people in now. So I'm going to kick into this and get us going. And hopefully the stragglers don't miss out too much on the beginning of the process here. So that's my background. I have done sales from a very young age. I've always been successful. This process is what made me really good, and I'm going to teach it to you today. And I'm happy to catch up with anyone afterwards if you want to talk about it further. Um, Right. First thing I want to reframe is mindset. People think about sales as being an icky thing, which is why I chose this brilliant picture here, because most people think when you think salesperson, you think slimy haired guy who's going to sell me something that I don't want. The truth is actually quite different. And if I can get you to think differently about who you are, everybody is a salesperson, whether you like it or not. If you are in business and own a business, I hate to break to you, you are a salesperson. There are people on the call, I know some of you there are quite literally salespeople. But even if you're not a salesperson, if you're a technician or a skilled professional and sales is not what you do, the process that I'm going to teach you is going to enable you to sell without feeling like you're going to have to be a slimy head salesperson. So, the question that I want you to answer or ask yourself is, are you the best person to help your customer? Because the answer is, if you say no, then the best person is probably your competitor. So then you need to ask yourself, what do I need to improve myself so that I am the best person to help this customer? Because the truth is, if you're good at what you do and you understand your customers, you are the best person to help them. You're not selling them anything. You're helping them solve their problem or get the thing that they want. You're doing it through a process of understanding. So if you can answer this question with, yes, I am the best person to help my customer, then it's actually your duty to do so. It is your duty to pick up the phone and make that call. It's your duty to do a good job in the sales meeting or in the meeting, if we call it that. It's your duty to do a good job of the proposal. Because if you do a good job, that customer is going to be helped better than anyone else can. I really want you to think on that concept because anybody who feels funny about sales, anyone who doesn't think they are a salesperson, this is the truth. If you are good at what you do, you are the best person to help that customer. Be that person. Help that customer. Don't try and sell them anything. Try and help them. Cool. Give me a thumbs up if that made sense to you. Okay. Few thumbs up coming through. Good. Okay. Going to move through to the next part now. Question for you, and I want you to answer in the chat box. What is the most effective growth strategy? Some of you have heard this before. Don't you answer too quickly. Is it A, build customer loyalty, or B, find new customers? Give me your answers. A. Ah, you're all wrong. You're all wrong. Guess what? The answer is B. This is research from Doug Hall, who's basically a human Google. Finding new customers is 2.8 times more effective if you want to grow your company. Now, the good news is the process that I'm about to teach you is going to teach you how to win new customers and it's going to teach you how to build customer loyalty. So it was a bit of fun that we did that. But if you want to build a business, you have to find new customers. Okay? Get that into you. If you want to grow a business, you have to win new customers. Winning new customers is 2.8 times more effective than selling more to your existing customers. Both are good to do, and I would have you doing both if I was coaching you. But this focus on new business is what this particular process is really good for. So we're at about 100 people, so I think that's all who's going to show today. So I'm going to move into doing the process now. And I've chosen these humorous pictures because this is not what we're about today, okay? There's no trickery. There's no, I'm not going to teach you how to trick people into buying stuff. I'm going to teach you a process that you can follow to the letter, step by step, every time, and make more sales. I guarantee it. So the simplest sales process in the world. We'll get into that now. Give me a thumbs up if everybody's ready. You've got your pen, you've got your paper, and like me, hopefully you've got your coffee. Okay, cool. Everyone's ready. Let's get into it. The first thing I want you to do is have in your head your target market customer. I'm not getting into this today. Everybody, everywhere will help you do your target market customer. I can if you want, but I want them in your head. And I want you to be specific in your head as to who your target market customer is. The reason for it is because the questions you are going to ask in this process will be more relevant if you can tailor them to that person. So even think of a client of yours that's your favorite client, put a name to them, put the business against them, think about who that favorite client is that you love working with, and think this process is for them. Okay, have them in your head while we go through it. Now, the basics of selling. Don't be in a hurry to sell. I was asked to help an underperforming sales team a couple of years ago, and there was one girl. She was a young girl. She'd never done sales before, and she was miles and miles off her targets. And they had to pick up the phone and make calls, which a lot of people aren't comfortable with. She wasn't comfortable with it. It didn't sit well with her. And I asked her a question. I said, "What are you thinking when you're thinking about picking up the phone?" And she says that I'm thinking, make a sale, make a sale, make a sale, make a sale. All she could think about was the fact that she had to make a sale. How do you think the prospect felt on the other side of that phone call? Chuck your answer in the chat box. The eureka moment for her was when I countered her with that thinking, and I said, how many people do you know who make a sale over the phone on the first phone call? Yeah, you're right. You're all exactly right. No one makes a sale over the phone unless you're Jordan Belfort, who went to prison for it. Probably don't recommend that. Um, when exactly, Luke, exactly. When you pick up the phone thinking you're going to make a sale, it just comes across in what you're saying. What I said to her is, all you are doing is starting a conversation. Make the call and start a conversation. If you have a good conversation, they'll pick up the phone next time you call because they don't mind talking to you. People do business with people that they like. So that's the first thing. So don't be in a hurry to sell. The second thing is, do be in a hurry to open a relationship. What I mean by that is, bring the hustle forward. The more activity you do early, the more calls you make, the more conversations you start, makes your sales easier later. You are more likely to hit your targets or reach your goals or achieve the success you want if you bring the hustle forward. Hurry to make those connections and start those conversations. Do not hurry to sell anything. At the same time that you're going through a selling cycle and trying to make a sale, all salespeople rush, all salespeople try and do it too fast. While you're going through that process, your customer is going through a buying cycle. Their cycle is slower and they don't want to rush to the end. They want to know that you can take them through it in a slow, controllable manner. So the next key point is control the process. You have to know what is happening next at each step and be able to articulate that to the customer so you can tell them what to do. If you're waiting for them to tell you what's happening next, you've lost control of the sale. They want you to tell them what to do next, and you have to know at every step what that is. Cool? Thumbs up? You need to know what is happening at every step, and then you can guide them through that process. That's what enables you to be deliberate, and that is what enables you to be consistent. People like consistent salespeople. Now, the next thing is ask the right questions. There is nothing more annoying than sitting in a sales meeting with somebody who did not look at your website, did not look at your LinkedIn, did no research, and they're making it up as they go in the meeting, and they're asking questions that they should have already known the answers to. There is nothing more infuriating if you're a busy person. Not only do you pre plan the types of questions that you're going to ask, You pre-plan how you're going to relate them to their business and their industry, particularly if you are in an industry and you're good in your industry. You should know it so well that you can relate your questions to your prospect in the right way. So my last piece of advice here before we go into the actual process is make sure you do your preparation. Do a Google search because you'll find articles on them, you'll find LinkedIn, you'll find their snapshot of their social media and how they position themselves, whether they like the All Blacks and whatnot. You can find a lot about people just by Googling it. Look at their website, and look for whether there's been any media articles on their business because that can tell you a lot about where they're at. Those of you raising your hand, I can't answer questions while I'm going through. I will answer them at the end. If you chuck them in the Q&A or in the chat box, Karina will take them down and I can respond by email, mail, or answer at the end. So absolutely ask questions. Please chuck them through the Q&A box. Okay, here's how the cycle works. With your pen and paper, I want you to take up 2/3 of the piece of paper drawing this circle. Draw a circle, make it a big one, because you're going to be writing in the circle and around it. So you need some room around the edge and you need room in the middle. Give me a thumbs up when you've drawn a circle, please. Okay, now I want you to split that circle into 6 pieces of pie. One line down the middle, 2 diagonal lines. So do that quickly now. And then I want you to draw a racing flag at the top of the vertical line, exactly as on the slide there. Draw the flag, color in the little checkered dots. That is your start line. Now you're racing, but you're not going fast, right? You are not rushing them through the process. You're going to follow the process deliberately. Now, I'm going to give you some clues along the way to help you think and guess what the answer is. First question, what do you think the first step is in the process? What's that first segment? Put your guesses in the chat. Close. Charlotte's close. So you should already have prepped and researched because you are now entering a sales process. So you've got a lead, you're entering the process. The first step is what, so write this in the segment, needs analysis. Needs analysis. Needs analysis is the first step. Another way that you can frame that is ask great questions. Now, what needs to happen? Chuck it in the chat box. What needs to happen before you can move to the next step? This is the one that gets everyone. Clarify. Close, Ben. Very close. Confirm the needs understanding with the client. Yes. Okay. So next to that diagonal line, right next to that, I want you to write the words, listen very carefully, gain agreement. Before you can move to a new stage in a sales process, you must gain agreement. Question is, what are we gaining agreement on? We are gaining agreement that we have understood their needs correctly. So you should have needs analysis in brackets, ask great questions, and then next to that vertical horizontal diagonal line, you should have gain agreement before the next segment. What that might look at is, okay, so I understand that your problem looks like this. This is an issue because of this impact, and you need something that can do this. Does that sound like I've understood your problem correctly? And they'll go, yes, that you understand it correctly. Or they'll go, no, it also means that we can't do X, Y, Z. And you go, okay, so you can't do X, Y, Z, so we need to do that to solve it. And they go, yes. And then you go, cool. I've just gained agreement that I understand their problem correctly. They're still not ready to buy anything. So the next step in the sales process, any guesses? What is the next step? So you've understood their needs correctly, you've asked great questions, and you've gained agreement. You've both agreed that you understand the situation. What's the next step? Offer options, too early. Pitch product, too early. Explain what you can offer, too early. Yes, pain points. Right. That's it, Sheldon. Pain. The right. Okay, so right in this next segment, create the need to act. Okay? Create the need to act. Now, if you are not a salesperson, if you're a business owner that's good at what you do and selling makes you uncomfortable, and if you're a technician or an engineer or something, again, you're good, you're a professional, you're not really selling, you're trying to solve their problem, but kind of you're stuck selling. If creating the need to act makes you uncomfortable, you could reframe this in your head as identifying their need to act. And it looks like this. Um, if there's no budget, if there's no timeline, if there's no reason for them to do something about this now, they're not going to do anything about it. You do not have a sale. If you go to trying to present a proposal or send a quote through or anything like that, you're wasting your time. You are not getting a sale. The reason why you're not getting a sale, and write this down, is because you have not identified the implications of not doing something. So, timeline's a great example. A question like, when do you need this? See, that question tells you whether or not there's urgency. If they go, oh, before Christmas, there's no urgency, you do not have a sale. If they're like, I need this by Friday, you have a sale. It's yours to lose, right? There's a need, there's an implication. So you've got to uncover that implication. Why do you need it by Friday? Or why do you only need it by Christmas? Surely you need it earlier than that. Why not? So by asking those explorative questions, the implication questions, you can identify a need to act. If you don't identify a need to act, there is no point in you going further in the process. You are wasting your time. So I uncover their needs, agree that they have those needs, then identify the implication. And then what you do next, what do you have to do before you move to the next stage in the cycle? What do you need to do? Come on. Gain agreement. Thank you, Michael. You have to gain agreement that they and you understand the implication. Oh, okay. So it's really important to you to get this by Friday. Yes. Cool. I've gained agreement twice. I still haven't even tried to sell them a single thing. Got it? What you are doing is you are building a history of them saying yes with you because you're understanding them properly and you're uncovering enough information for you to be able to help them buy. So now we've gained agreement that there's a real reason for them to go ahead. We've understood things like budget and timeline and what the pain is going to be if they don't solve it or fix it, or what they're going to miss out on if they don't get, the new Ferrari, whatever. What's the next step? Guesses. Guesses. Careful with your language on the next guess. Ah, too early, Sam. Too early. Still too early. Can you believe it? This is you trying to rush the sale. Rules of engagement? Kind of. Kind of. Identify what you have that can meet the need. Yes. Okay. Identify what you have to meet the need. Work through objections. Yes. The next stage, with your pen and paper, please write this down. This is very careful that you get this language right. Agree on the solution. Not present the proposal, not send a quote through, not close a sale. Agree on the solution. What we are trying to do at this stage, because at the bottom of the vertical line, I want you to write the word what? Gain agreement. We are gaining agreement that the solution we are discussing and suggesting meets the needs that we identified at the first stage. Got it? This is the light bulb moment that I need you to get. You need to agree with the prospect what the solution needs to be before you give them an agreement or a proposal. Give me a thumbs up if you're understanding that. Because if you gain agreement at this step, you've already made the sale. Okay, the proposal is a formality. The sale should already be done. Mentally, they've committed to you. Mentally, they agree that your solution can solve their problem. Mentally, they've ticked the box several times. They feel understood. There is a need there. You are simply checking with them that what you're suggesting is going to solve their problem. Now, the mistake, yes, Richard. So, yes, you need the proposal to describe the solution. That is the next stage. So, you've gained agreement what the solution is, in theory. Now, you put that solution in writing. And a key point here, and a mistake that I see people make, is at the create the need to act part, or even most of the time at the needs analysis point, people will ask the questions and get the needs and then go, cool, I'll just send you through a quote for that. And the prospect goes, okay. And then you go and spend 4 hours putting a proposal together, and then you email it, and then you follow them up, what, a week later, 2 weeks later, because you're being lazy, and you go, hey, have you looked at my proposal yet? And they go, oh, no, sorry, it's on my to-do list. Give me a thumbs up if you've heard that before. Don't lie to me, you all have. You've all sent through a proposal prematurely, followed them up, and they haven't looked at it, right? So the reason for that is because you have not agreed on the solution before you sent it through. So then when you put the solution into a proposal, do you send it through? Do you send it through? Thank you, Richard. You present the proposal. You book in a Zoom call to go through it, or you sit down in front of them and go through it, or you email it to them, immediately call them on the phone because you know they're going to dodge you for the meeting, and then you go through it on the phone with them. Why? Come on. Why? Yes, Daniel. Thank you. Yes, yes, Wendy. Yes, Matt. You have to handle the objections. We want the objections. I'm going to go into that a little bit more later. All right. So I'm going to go deeper into each of these segments given time. This is why I've got to kind of rush through it because there's a lot to do on each one. But you're with me to this point. You should be at close the sale. You are presenting the proposal. So this segment is close the sale, present the proposal, not email it through and go dark. Okay. Then you've gained agreement that you've got the sale. I'm going to give you some closing tools shortly. So I'm going to skip over that now. We are going to do some closing tools. But basically, you've closed the sale. What's the next step in the process? The next step in the process is give your pen and paper now, monitor against expectations. Now, this is the classic mistake of like real true salespeople is they've closed the deal and then they're at the bloody pub celebrating and spending their commission before they've finished their job properly. Finishing your job properly means doing a good, smooth handover, communicating well, and making sure all the details are taken care of. You need to make sure you understand the customer's expectations at this point and make sure you deliver on your promises. It is no good to scoot off into the sunset and enjoy your commission if then the job falls over and it's a disaster, because the next segment is, and write this down, upsell. You cannot upsell if the last job was a disaster. You've broken their trust and you've lost all credibility. So you close the sale, you uncover their expectations, you monitor their expectations, and then you gain agreement that the job or the delivery or the service went. Oh, hang on, Jackie, I'll catch you up. So the job went to plan. Okay. Now you get to have another meeting again, do needs analysis again, and upsell. Okay. So the last segment, the sixth segment is upsell. The fifth segment is monitor against expectations. The fourth segment is present the proposal, close the sale. The third segment is agree on the solution. The second segment is create the need to act. And the first segment is needs analysis. Ask great questions. And every line, every step of every segment along the way should have gain agreement. Okay? So that's what you all need to have. So this is what it should look like. Needs analysis, create the need to act, agree on the solution, close the sale, monitor against expectations, upsell. So we're going to go into these sections each. I'll just quickly time check myself. Whew, running out of time quickly. All right. So what do I would usually stretch this part out, but we don't have time. What do most salespeople get wrong? Here's the two, believe it or not, that most people get wrong. They get wrong creating the need to act, and they get wrong monitoring against expectations. Okay? So circle those two segments. That is usually where it goes wrong, creating the need to act and monitoring expectations. Simply put, most people skip the stage of creating the need to act because it makes them uncomfortable. You need to find a question you can ask that uncovers the implication that doesn't make you uncomfortable. What's going to happen if you don't solve this? I don't know why that's hard for people to ask. It's pretty easy. What's going to happen if you don't solve this? Okay, that will uncover an implication as to what needs to happen in order for that pain to go away. Monitoring against expectation. Salespeople make the sale and move on. It's part of our nature. It is what it is. You must slow yourself down and handle the process properly, handle the detail properly. Do a smooth handover through the business systems to follow so that the customer has an awesome experience. Most people can, if they know their industry well, can ask good questions. Most people can come up with a solution that they think will work. Most people can hand over a proposal. But closing is the other thing that some people struggle with. So I'll teach you one shortly. All right, needs analysis. Selling is a negotiation. The whole process is a negotiation. There's a book called Never Split the Difference, written by this man here, Chris Voss. He's the best negotiation trainer on the planet. Um, check out that book. It's really good. Yet Richard agrees. Check out that book and read it. But essentially, what sales is a process of uncovering as much information as possible. Okay? The more information you have, the more likely you are to close a sale. Now, give me a thumbs up if you've ever sat in a meeting and it was a nightmare, just a disaster. It went off the rails straight away. Give me a thumbs up if that's happened to you. It has happened to me in my early days for sure. So I'm going to give you something here that's really gonna help you, and it's called a back pocket trick. So I had a girl that worked for me in one of my account management teams about 15 years ago, and she was an awesome soul. But when she had to pick up the phone to make a call, her hands would visibly shake, right? She was terrified of that part of the process. And she was really good. Um, but she shared with me one day, I just get stuck on what to say. You know, who does that? I get stuck on what to say. You see what's wrong with what she said there? She felt like it was what she said was what mattered. It's not what you say that matters, it's what you ask. So the turning point for her was I got a pink post-it note and I wrote 5 questions on that post-it note and I stuck that to the bottom of her computer monitor. And then I sat with her while she made a couple of calls. And I said, right, if at any point you start to panic or you don't know what to say or you feel like you're losing your way, just ask one of those questions in your language, in your words. Ask one of those questions. Game changer. She turned around in about 1 month. All of a sudden, she could buy herself time to think. When a meeting's going wrong, what happens is you panic and it compounds and you keep talking and you make a dog's breakfast of it. When you can buy yourself time to take a moment and breathe and think, you can bring that meeting back on track and back around. So your back pocket trick, write this down. I want you to come up with 5 open-ended questions that can open up a conversation about your industry or your business or their business. Okay. Um, I can talk more on that if we have time. So I'll come back to that at the end if you guys want some examples. Now, can't get away from the gigantic hype bubble that is AI. Goddamn, everyone's doing it. So I'll tell you that what I did was I went to ChatGPT and I got ChatGPT to give me all the questions for these next slides. So you can see some of them are clunky, but some of them are really good. Um, and it's good fun going through it. But what I want you to do, and pay attention to what I said before, I want you to come up with one question for each of these segments in your language, you personally, not just your business, you personally, the way that you are and the way that you talk, because people like authentic salespeople. They don't want you reading from a script. They don't want you reading questions in front of the computer monitor, right? Because that you can tell, you can hear it. It's a huge turn on. You've got to write the questions in your own language and then put them aside and then just talk and just and ask questions and be with your customer. Okay. So needs analysis. Here's ChatGPT's examples. Help me understand XYZ. Can you tell me more about how is this impacting your business? What have you done to try to address this? What are your goals for solving these things? These are great examples. I want you right now, 10 seconds, write down a question that you can ask at the needs analysis stage that would open up a conversation about their need. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, give me a thumbs up when you've written your question because I want to go fast, but I don't want to leave you behind. Cool. Now, your homework is to write 2, 3, 4, 5. You need 5 for each segment. Okay, that's going to be your homework. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them in proportion. It's like dating. The person that does the most talking feels the best about the date. It's the same in a sales meeting. The person who does the most talking feels the best about the date. The more the more good questions that you have that you can ask that open up the conversation instead of you standing there talking to a brochure, right? The difference between those two is tangible in the meeting for the person on the receiving end of the other side of the table. So think about it as a conversation where you want to do less of the talking. The best salespeople do less of the talking, not like Logan, who won't shut up right now. All right, gaining agreement. Here's some examples from ChatGPT. So you guys, I actually prefer Gemini. Little hint here on AI tools. I find Gemini better because it also suggests links and resources as well as opening your answering your questions. So jump in and use those tools. Use it to create some questions, then turn them into your language, the way that you talk, and it'll help you speed up this process. Do I understand your needs okay? Does it sound like this can help you with the challenges? Are there any other ways that we can help? Are you happy to move to the next step? See, those aren't very good. The example I gave before was better. The best thing to do is use empathy to repeat back to them what they've already said and frame it as a question. That's actually the best way to gain agreement because they've already said it. It's hard to disagree with something that they've said. So if you ask a question, they give a response, you repeat the response back to them and say, does that sound correct? Pretty hard to get that wrong. Yes, Richard. In fact, there's a video that Chris Voss does that's on YouTube where he actually demonstrates that process of empathy. So Google that. I should have included that on the slides actually. Yeah, search for that on YouTube. It's a really brilliant example. So I use ChatGPT for this slide, as horrendous as it is. But you must gain agreement before you move to the next step. If you have not gained agreement, do not move past that step. If I can get you to go away with anything else today, do not go to the next step without gaining agreement that you've closed off the step before. Okay. Now, creating the need to act. Qualification. You do not have a sale if you do not know what the budget is, what the timeline is, and who the decision maker is. Okay? So don't waste your time. Don't waste their time. There is no sale on the table for you if there is not a budget, a timeline, and a person. Okay, you're going to spend all of this time going through a process and putting proposals together and blah blah blah, and there was never any sale there. I do not enter into talking about a solution until I understand whether or not there's a timeline or a budget or a decision maker that I need to be talking to. Okay, so tick those 3 things off before you go deep into a sales process. You may need to rebook a meeting to get the other stakeholders to attend that meeting to then discuss a budget and a timeline before you can move past needs analysis. Now, creating the need to act. So here's some examples for you if you're uncomfortable with selling. What impact are these challenges having? Are you losing any money as a result of this? What would happen if you didn't address these challenges? How will it impact your company's profits? Are there any risks in not addressing these things, particularly like with health and safety and things like that, where people are at risk? There are always an implication of people not doing something. Not making a decision is making a decision. It's just the wrong decision. You need to make a decision. You need to make a decision. They need to make a decision to go ahead with you or not, right? But procrastinating is making a bad decision. So you need to uncover the implications so that they are in a position where they need to say yes or no. And a no is not in sales, and be careful here, a no is not necessarily a no in sales. A no is often not yet. And the reason why a no is not yet is because you haven't given them the information that they need to feel comfortable saying yes. So the solution, does what we're suggesting fit your needs? Have we missed anything that's essential? Is there anything we don't understand? Does it sound like this solution could work for you? Again, I've not mentioned money. I've not tried to close. All I'm doing is confirming that what we've discussed has done what they need it to do, right? There is nothing about this that is slimy, salesy, or trickery. All this is uncovering information and confirming that we're both on the same page. So again, write down an example in your own language. So for each of those segments, I want you to write down 5 questions in your own language that you can get comfortable using. And you won't use most of those 5. You'll end up gravitating to the ones that you will find work for you better more often than not. But that's the homework after this. Identify all the right questions. Time check. Okay. Closing. So I talked about no's not necessarily being a no until they've got all the information, and then no will be a no. Um, Closing the sale. This is the key part for most people. So right till this point, you need to have controlled the conversation. You've followed your process. You've asked your questions. You've gained agreement. At this point, you don't want to be blindsided by random objections that you didn't expect. So if you don't have a sale at this point, you've done something wrong. At this point, they should be ready to sign before you've put a proposal in front of them. They should be feeling good, feeling heard, feeling understood, and ready to go. If they're not, you mucked up. So you've got to go back to that checkered flag at the start, all the way back to needs analysis, and you've got to figure out what you missed. Ask the questions again, understand the customer better, gain agreement again. You probably didn't gain agreement on one of the segments, is actually what happened. But sometimes there's a question that you didn't ask at the needs analysis stage that had the piece of information that you really needed. So you go back to the start at needs analysis, and you start all over again until you get back round. So when you're closing the sale, if talking about money makes you uncomfortable, or if you don't like closing, as a concept, if that makes you uncomfortable, there's 2 ways to go ahead. One is to just assume that you're starting. And that's to go, is it cool with you if we show up on Tuesday and get started? Here's how we'll do it. Easy. The other way to do it is to give them the option and ask what's called a double bind. Would you prefer we show up on Tuesday, or would Thursday work better for you? So now they're not saying yes or no to a sale, they're saying when it suits for them to start. For a prospect who, if you've done your job properly from start to where you've gotten to now and following that cycle, for you to get to this point and ask one of those 2 assumptions, for them to turn around and say no at this point would be a really bad about turn. And it would be very difficult for them to do because you've said yes the whole way. You've agreed on the details the whole way. The only thing that can catch you out is an objection that you didn't uncover. So I'll just touch on objections on the next slides. So these ChatGPT ones, what's the most important factor in the decision-making process? To be honest, that should have been asked way back in needs analysis or something like that. Really, it's about going, when do we start? That's the easiest way to close a sale. Okay, when do we start? At this point, closing should just be a formality. So when you get blindsided by objections, it's because they didn't come out in the conversation earlier. When they come through late like this, Brian Tracy is where I did my sales training in my early days. It's old now, it's like stuff from the 80s, but it's really good fundamentals. So if you Google it and find some of Brian Tracy's resources, I really learned a lot from him. But An objection is not a no. A lot of people think an objection is, oh, I've lost the sale. It's not. An objection is them saying, hang on, I'm not comfortable to say yes yet because something's missing. So you've got to uncover what it is about that objection that's making them uncomfortable. Where's the information missing that you should have communicated? Or where didn't you get the information from them that you could have handled? And you want to get objections out on the table as early as possible, either before you're presenting a proposal, ideally. You want to get them out at kind of that create the need to act or agreeing the solution stage is really where you want to get the objections out. But even when you're presenting the proposal early on, saying a good question to ask is actually, um, is there anything stopping you from going ahead today? Write that down. Is there anything stopping you from going ahead today? The reason why that's a good question is because you're volunteering them to give you the objections. And they might go, oh, well, I'm just not too sure about XYZ. Congratulations, you just got a step closer to a yes because now you understand what's holding them back in their decision making process or progress. So get the objections out early in the process, you can handle them, and then you can make any adjustments that you need to do. For example, closing. If you're at the presenting proposal stage and they've come out with an objection that's caught you off guard and you don't know the answer yet, the way that you can still close the deal right there and then, because you can say, "That's cool. I understand that objection. If we can solve that for you, are you happy to go ahead with our proposal?" And they go, "Yeah," and you go, "Cool. Now you've got a sale." Even though there's an objection, you've still got a sale because they said, "Yes, we're happy with it if you can solve that." Yes, Edwina, we can send through the recording. So here's some of the objection handling questions from ChatGPT. They're okay. I think my one's better. So I hope you wrote down my one, or you can get it off the recording. So write down just one of your own examples, please. 5 for each. Now, people always say, "Oh, it's all about price." I'm sorry, and I know there's salespeople on the call here. Price is a bullshit excuse. There's no such thing as price being the only reason somebody chooses you or not. Price is a decision-making factor. It is not the decision-making factor. Price is an issue in the absence of value. If you have not demonstrated any other value, then price will be all they've looked at. So that's your fault. If price is an issue, that's your fault. Price and look, every industry is competitive. Everybody is trying to get the best price. That's human nature. But if price is all you've got to stand on, you're not doing a good job of selling. If they feel understood, if they feel like you know their problem, if you've gained agreement 3 times, pretty hard for them to come back and suddenly ambush you and tell you you're too expensive, right? That's just an excuse. Sales is a process of building trust. They've got to believe you can deliver on your promises. They've got to like you. You've got to demonstrate that you can do what they need you to do. Price is a consideration, and yes, you may need to negotiate, but that happens after you've agreed that you're the right one for them to work with. You don't want to negotiate in a competitive situation because then everyone just keeps lowering each other's prices until no one makes any money. That's no way for New Zealand to become more productive. So you negotiate on price once you've agreed you're doing business together. Okay? Don't negotiate until they've agreed that you're the one that they want to do business with. Monitoring against expectations, you keep your customers by delivering on your promises. So your job is not done when you've made a sale. Sorry, salespeople. I know you want to go to the pub and celebrate. No, you've got a smooth handover to your team. You've got to look at the delivery process and make sure you've ticked the boxes. You've got to handle all the paperwork properly. Any issues that may come up, there will always be a surprise issue that comes up. Be ready to deal with it fast so that your customer knows that you're taking care of it. Thanks, Edwina. Communicate ahead of time. Try to be early. Try to tell them that you're ahead of time on your delivery, not late. Delivering on your promises is the key part of getting to do business again. So you only earn the right to upsell after you've delivered on your promise. And you better make damn sure that their experience is an awesome experience. Because if it's an awesome experience, they will buy from you again, no problem. But if you watch my language because I'm being recorded. If you muck it up, if you're late, if you're wrong, if there's a detail missing, if there's a scratch on it, if you no show, you've stuffed the right to you've lost the right to upsell. You don't deserve it, right? Earn the right to upsell by delivering on your promises. So, one of the things that you can think of is, do you have a review process that you go through with your customers once you've made the sale and delivered the thing? Can you ask them what you could have done better? I'm humble enough. Tell me if give me your feedback at the end of the webinar. I might have sworn a couple of times. I probably bumbled my words a couple of times. What could I have done better? I want to hear it because then I can make it better next time. Ask what you did well. Often customers don't actually think enough about the things that you did really well. They're quick to point out the problem, not quick enough to appreciate that actually that was really complex and you did a bloody good job of navigating it together. Are there any other projects you have coming up that we could take a look at? Hey, if you're happy with the job, do you know anyone else that we could be doing business with? Much easier to ask for a referral when they're happy than 90 days later when they've forgotten what you've done. Okay? Now, however beautiful the strategy, you should occasionally look at the results. So, what I want to challenge you with now is to think, how do you know this process that I've just taught you is working? So, I want you to measure it. We've got a tool that you can measure it, or you can measure it yourself in an Excel spreadsheet, and I'll explain how. In our tool, we've got a tool called Beyond. What you do is you create a scorecard. You take the key moments in the sales process aligned with those segments, and you put a KPI next to them. What's the number that you should be doing, and what's your conversion rate relative to those steps? Okay. Now, what we do with our process within our software is we go, okay, if this is the target, what's the average dollar sale? And what's our effectiveness as a salesperson? Are we 50-50? Are we 80-20? Are we 20-80? What's our conversion rate? And then we calculate that into activity. Okay, what's the amount of activity I need to be doing in order to hit my targets? And then we can work backwards to that scorecard, red light, traffic light your progress, and figure out where in those stages you're going wrong. What's happening? Are we failing to gain agreement? Are we not making enough calls? Are we not generating enough leads, which is a marketing problem? Are we sending too many proposals through instead of presenting them? You can problem solve what's going wrong in your process by looking at the data. If the numbers aren't adding up, you know where the problem is. Okay, so you want to work backwards from here's what we want to achieve, here's the amount of sales that we need to make to do that, therefore here's the amount of activity we need to be able to do to make those sales, and this is the process that we're following. Now, if we're following those process, where are we going right or wrong? And you need to review that monthly. Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. You can build that in an Excel spreadsheet. I can teach you it in 5 minutes. It's 5 columns. Cool. Thumbs up. Okay. 5 columns, spell out the process, figure out where you're converting, where you're not converting, etc., etc. Okay. How am I going for time? I am right on time. Look at that. Okay. What is one thing you can do today that make a difference? Don't rush this part. I want you now with your pen and paper to write down one thing you can personally change as a result of this webinar that is going to improve your sales process this week. So please write it down now. What is one thing you're going to focus on and do this week to improve your sales process? Once you've written that down, please type it in the chat box because you are going to learn more from each other at this juncture than me continuing to rabbit on. So please type the one thing you're going to do in the chat box so that everybody else can see what other people are doing. Back pocket questions. Nice. Did anyone know what album cover that was from? Pop quiz. Master integrating 6 steps. Cool. Don't send the proposal till we agree. Yes. Gain agreement. Yes. Make 10 extra calls. Cool. Monitor expectations. Don't rush it. Born in the USA. Good. You got it. Gain agreement. Cool. Ask questions. Close more in person. Good. Good. That's a huge step. Just do that, and you'll have an increase. Win proposal. Yes. Ask questions. Earn the right to upsell. Nice. Cool. Okay. Next step. So that's the one thing. Okay, that's the one thing that you're going to do right now. Leave this webinar, go and make that change. Over the next month, What are the three things that you can improve to increase your sales? Write them down. What are the three things you are committing to do this month to improve your sales? This is what we do at Advisory.Works. Anytime you meet with us, you can guarantee you're going away with actions to do. So, what are the actions you're going to implement in the next 30 days to improve your sales process? Do think on this for a moment. Those of you that are raising your hands, if you have a question, please drop them in the Q&A. I will stay on to answer questions for anybody that wants to stay on. Also, I'm happy to write them into an email and send them with the recording if need be. So do chuck your questions in the Q&A. It's in the footer at the bottom next to the chat box. Click on that, type the question, and then I can answer them. Okay, give me a thumbs up when you've all written your 3 questions. One person. 2, 3. Okay, there we go. Couple more coming through now. 3 things. Um, I will go back to the one of the slides at the beginning and leave it there for you to write some more questions in a moment. So I found this quote and I loved it. So this is the one that I'm going to finish with. It had long since come to my attention that people of accomplishment rarely sat back and let things happen to them. They went out and happened to the things. And when I think about the best salespeople that I've seen or worked with, when I think about when I've been good and when I've been a bit shit, and sometimes I have been, it's usually because we become desk warriors. We sit back and hope something's going to change. We click refresh on our emails, waiting for a lead to magically come in. No. The way to make sales is to bring the hustle forward, go out and happen to the things. You create your own luck by doing more activity. Cool? So that's my final thing. Bring the hustle forward. Now, I'm going to put it back on the earlier slide so that you guys are thinking about your 3 actions. Look, we covered a lot of ground today. I really want you to think on these stages and identify where are the 3 changes that you need to make. Okay? Write those 3 down. Cool. I'm going to finish there, and what I'll do is I will open up the Q&A and see what we have. There's a poll coming through, so if you want the slides, I can turn those into a PDF and send them if anybody even wants them. Um, you can do a free trial of Beyond if you want a trial of Beyond. There's no credit card information. We don't take your finances or anything. We literally just give you a link and you go and trial it. And if you end up wanting it, you just tell us. Okay, so there's no pressure there. If you want to catch up with me and talk to me about any of these concepts, happy to do so. Just flick us a message. Just FYI, you won't get in my calendar until October or November, but I'm happy to just get a comms through to the team and they'll book you in. And I'll do another webinar of this style if you guys want it. It takes me about sort of 6 to 8 hours to put one together. So if enough people want it, I'll do another one. All right. How would you apply this process to tender in the construction space? Okay, Joe, give me a thumbs up if you're in the chat box, if you're still online, mate. Joe, you're there. Thanks, Luke. Okay, I will. Joe, tender process. It's an awesome question. I have a strong opinion on the tender market in New Zealand. I think it's shit. I think it's broken, and I don't think it works for anyone. However, it is what it is, and it's there, and you've got to work within it. What I do with the tender process is I highly recommend that you disrupt the process. Thanks, team. I understand it's 1 o'clock. If you have to drop off, that's all good. We're recording. My answers here. We'll share with everyone. In the tender process, a lot of the time the customer doesn't actually understand what they're asking for, which means that the tender proposal that you're putting in sometimes doesn't actually do the job that's needed, even though you've answered what they've asked you to answer. So with the tender process, What I like to do is disrupt the process and create the opportunity for a meeting where I can clarify and ask more questions. And then I like to ask permission to one, reply to the tender as it is, but also reply to the tender with a suggestion of my own based on my further understanding. Oh, thank you, Daniel. Appreciate that, mate. Um, and by doing that, you get to demonstrate some trust and some leadership by doing a better job of your proposal, but you've also created the opportunity to uncover more information. In the construction related businesses that I've worked with in the past and currently, they've all increased their conversion rate by at least sort of 10%, probably about standard, increased by about 10% just from making sure that they do that. So that would be my advice, is to create the need to do a needs analysis, is my answer, Joe. Um, Marcus, yes, get in front of the person to close the deal. Xenia, hello. How do you work through the extended timeline? For example, I need it by Christmas. Okay. Going back to what I asked at the time was, thanks team, thanks for coming on. Why do you only need it by Christmas? Thanks, Luke. What's the reason that you only need it by Christmas? Um, if you're at the create the need to act stage and the timeline is I don't need it by until Christmas, what I would do personally is I would loop back to the needs analysis and I would ask more implication questions at the needs analysis stage, because it's likely that they don't realize that they have a reason to make a decision. Or if it's that they don't need it by Christmas, I would just actually say, push back at that point and go, hey, that's cool. I won't put together a proposal now. Let's get a date in the calendar to catch up again closer to the time, and we'll work through it then. Is that okay with you? And some people might get offended. Thanks, Dion. But most people will be okay with it. Because if there's no urgency or need for them to act, you're not going to make a sale. Doesn't matter how hard you try. Um, KPI spreadsheet example, Joseph. Yes. So one I can catch up on you and with you and show you, but essentially put the stages of the process into a column. Then you check as you go through those columns which stage of the process the lead is at. And then you want to work out any columns that they get stuck in. If they get stuck, you've got an issue with that part of your process. If they're moving through the columns, you should have a sale and it should increase in conversion rate every time. Thank you, Steph. Your conversion, your likelihood of converting increases in percentage with each stage that you get further through the process. Um, and then you can actually predict what the outcome, what the financial positive implication is for you based on the percentage likelihood they are of closing. So I can teach you how to do that, no problem. Also, our Beyond software does it for you already. Okay, Luke, yes, I will put it into PDFs and send it through if you've ticked that box. Um, is there anything additional or different that you would say in a situation where you are the seller and the deliverer and consult, e.g., consulting services? Okay, Jackie, is there anything different or additional you would say in the situation where you are the seller and the deliverer of the service? That's an interesting question. I think, yes, there is, and it's storytelling. And it's storytelling at the needs analysis stage and the agreeing on the solution stage. And what I want to do is relate a question that they have to a client case study that I can talk to confidently. Because then I can give them a visual, tangible example of the way that we have done that, that further enhances the credibility and the trust, but demonstrates your expertise. Does that make sense? And I would pre-plan, I would have some pre-planned stories that I could choose which one to draw on based on my research of that customer. Cool. Thumbs up. Good. Um, how would you apply this to outbound cold calling? So Victoria, the main thing there, I would create a step before the needs analysis stage, but it essentially works like a needs analysis stage. When you're doing outbound cold calling, what you're actually trying to do, you're not trying to close a sale, you are trying to close the opportunity to have a meeting or a conversation. You're trying to close a conversation. And so with the needs analysis there, what I'm doing is I'm asking their permission to book an appointment. That's the first thing. And I'm asking them to help me do so. Because when you ask them to help you go about booking the appointment, they then become an advocate for you, or they're kind of walking alongside you to make that process successful. You don't need to ask too many questions at that stage. You just need enough questions that's going to get you the meeting. All of the needs analysis happens in the meeting. The questions that you're asking before that are questions that are asking, is there an opportunity if I book the meeting? Thanks, Alicia. Um, Joseph, general strategy for sales based on cultural difference. General strategy for sales based on cultural difference. Um, I had a sales meeting that went badly once and I stuffed it up. And it was an Indian guy from India who had immigrated to New Zealand, and he had a substantial business across the country. And I had created the opportunity to potentially do business with him. And he invited me over to his house for tea, hot cup of tea, to discuss doing business. And he showed me his house and he showed me around and he talked about his daughters and he talked about his kids and he kept talking about his family. I kept trying to talk about business and he kept trying to talk about his family and I kept trying to talk about business. And I stuffed it up and I didn't get the sale. The problem was I wasn't listening. In Indian culture, I discovered later that it's more important who you are doing business with than what the product or solution is that you can sell. And I was trying to jump to selling. He wanted to understand if I was the kind of person he wanted to do business with. And it turned out I wasn't, because I didn't listen and I didn't engage with him culturally. So, when you are selling to another culture, I would be Googling that culture and understanding what is different about it. I've not done business in China personally, but I understand that the way you do business in China is very different to Japan, and I have done business with Japanese firms. And then that's very different to how Americans do business, and it's very different to how New Zealanders do business, and even Australia is actually quite different. They're a bit more kind of blunt and to the point even than New Zealanders are. So you've got to really know your stuff with the Australian sales. So I would say your strategy is actually the preparation stage. Do more prep, more research, and get really clear on the way that you're going to deliver your process in that new environment. Hopefully that helps. I can do more on that if you want to, but that's probably a longer conversation. So I think I'll just check. I think I've answered all the questions from everybody there. So that's that, team. We'll close it off. I'll send the video, the slides. I'll go through the poll and see who wants to catch up. And you'll hear from the team and I shortly. Thank you for coming along and thank you for sticking around over time.